Today we are going to be talking about dealing with your emotions while training. Chris loves that one. Can you still get chosen for development if you're in a bad club? Being a skinny 19-year-old who wants to have a crack at it. And we will be talking about Tom Bilyeu as well. Welcome to episode 31 of Run It Straight. All right, question number one. How do you deal with your emotions while training? Sometimes I don't feel right to train. I'll go and then you can go off. So I'll quote. We're going to put the link. Spiro's going to put the link. This is from Jocko Willink. We'll use him for an education dump at one point. Ex-Navy SEAL commander. I had to laugh, but he had one, and he basically said, "Your feelings don't matter." Okay, that's the deal. You may feel like something, you may not feel like doing something, but it doesn't matter because your feelings don't matter. You've got something that needs to get done. Just get out there and do what you're supposed to do, whether you feel like it or not. Period. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to expand beyond that besides literally switch the feelings off, get into the grind, work hard, regardless of whether you feel like doing it or not.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's, in general, that's life.
Yeah.
You know, 99% of people don't particularly enjoy, or I would say there's no one on the planet who enjoys every single thing that they have to do every day. Even if we look at like David Goggins, who does some pretty crazy stuff. He hates running. He doesn't like it at all. And he hates a lot of the things that he does, but he doesn't. And there's a lot of people, you think it might be, maybe your dad gets up and drives a truck and he has to leave the house at 5 o'clock in the morning and he doesn't get back until 7 o'clock at night. You think he enjoys doing that? No, but he has to do it. So he gets up and he gets it done. There's a lot of people who go to work doing jobs, whatever it is. There's mums that are getting up in the middle of the night 8 times to feed a baby who doesn't want to eat properly. They want to look after the baby. They love the baby, but do they want to be getting up then? No, they would like their sleep and their sanity back. You've just got to do what you've got to do. That's number one. But we'll use the baby and the mother example there. Having a why can make it a hell of a lot easier to do the things and to ignore your feelings and do what you need to do.
Yep.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mum gets up because that's the baby that she would die for. So even though she'd like some sleep, she's willing to sacrifice to do that. Dad gets up because he wants to go to work and he wants to pay the bills so he can put a roof over his family's head and put food in their belly. The athlete gets up at 4:30 in the morning so he can go and train, and he knows that 9 out of 10 guys he's competing against, they're sleeping in until 7 and 7:30, and they're like, I'll just train in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So he's getting an advantage over them. He knows why he's doing it. You've got to keep the end in mind at all times when you're doing things. And just know that whatever you're doing now, it's going to come to an end. You'll get through that session, and you're doing it towards something. You wanted to add something into that point?
Yeah. Exactly what you were saying. That's where I wanted to take it. It's more as long as you understand there's a consequence to not doing something because you don't feel like it. So if you don't feel like going to work and you don't go to work, the consequence is you don't make money and you could potentially get fired. And then the consequences of that is you can't provide for your family, you can't put food on the table, can't pay rent, whatever it is. So with training, it's the same thing, but you're just looking at your career instead. Am I going to make it in first grade? Well, if you can't regulate your emotions, then the answer would be no, because every session you're missing, there's someone that's not missing a session.
That's an opportunity gone.
Exactly. And they're training harder and longer and stronger, and they eventually get the edge over you. So you need to learn to regulate your emotions, put it aside, and train through it. And
look, you've got to learn hacks to use on yourself as well. Because look, a lot of, if you're sitting there and you're going to rely on, I'm going to just do it with willpower, that'll last for as long as it lasts, and then it won't. So this is why you got to start to build habits. We get up very early because we come in here. I set my alarm every morning to go off at, what time does it go off at? My alarm goes off at 4:05. But I would say out of a month, maybe there's once that I might sleep until my alarm. My body normally wakes up about 10 to 15 minutes before my alarm, and so I get up then. Okay, that's because it's in a habit. I do the same thing on a Saturday and a Sunday. I don't sleep in. A sleep in for me might be 10 past 4, and then I'll get up and I'll do something, because I know if I sleep in for 2 days, the body's going to start to form a new habit, and it's going to make it hard on Monday, so I just get up. So you need to form habits. So it doesn't take willpower for me to get up at that time of the day. Not much anyway, maybe when it's a little bit cold, but still, it's a habit. You need to build habits, and those habits, you need to build them around what are the things that I want to do, and how can I make it as easy as possible for that behavior to happen, and what are the things that I don't want to do, and how can I make it as difficult as possible. So having, you don't want to train. If you've got a gym buddy or someone that you're going to go to the gym and train with, and I run a sleep in, but I know I've got to go because Chris is at the gym. He's going to be there at 5 waiting for me, and he spots me when I bench, and I spot him when he benches. And so getting someone else, that makes it a lot harder for you to skip the workout. So trying to look at all the things that you want to do, and then when you don't feel like it, it's easy for you to give up, and think about ways that you can make it easier for you to do those things, remove barriers, or make it more difficult for you to not do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Just one last thing I'll throw in there. The next time that you think it's a valid reason to not train because of your feelings, think again.
Yeah. Look, if you feel tired or exhausted, I just don't feel it, you know what? You say, okay, I'm going to train today, and if I feel the same way tomorrow, then I won't train tomorrow. Just do that. And you come in, how many clients come in and train, and then after the training, you're like, man, I feel really, really good. I'm so glad that I did that.
Majority of the time, it's getting here that's the challenge, right? It's getting to the gym that's the challenge. And then once you start the workout...
we call it the battle of the blankets.
You're fine after that.
That's right. So, yeah, get over your feelings. It's not about your feelings. Just do what has to happen. Just do what you need to get done. Question number 2. Can you still get chosen for development if you're in a bad club? No, you should give up and just stop playing football. Of course you can. Of course you can.
Sometimes it's actually beneficial.
It can be, because you stand out a little bit more. If you're in a gun side, if you're looking to get pick in reps, and it's between being an absolute gun side, and if you're not one of the best 2 or 3 players, there's a good chance you're going to get overlooked in that side. Those 2 or 3 absolute stars are going to be the ones. But if you're in a side that's in the middle, obviously you don't want to be getting mercied every week. That's not going to be helpful. But if you're a side that's in the middle, you're in games, you're putting then every week there's a little bit more responsibility on you to perform for the team to do well. That pressure is good for you and for your game. But it also means that in that side, you do stand out a little bit more than you will in the gun side. Yeah. How development often works.
But it's not just about standing out. It's actually about pushing your potential as well. So if you're in a team that relies on your performance to be in a game or to win a game, then you'll play harder and therefore you actually improve and stand out at the same time. Yeah.
You improve with pressure. You don't improve without pressure.
Correct.
But how development, just to take a little bit of a backward step, often works is, let's say you get to, and it's like 14's development. When the time comes to pick development players, the coaches of the ages within the eligible age bracket are actually contacted by, if it's Tigers, let's say. And so let's say it's under 14s, and the Tigers will speak to, I don't know, let's say there's 8 teams in the Div 1 and 5 teams in the Div 2, or something like that. Okay, they'll actually speak to the coaches and say, look, we're looking for 2 or 3 boys from your side. Or maybe if it's a gun side, they're looking for 6 boys from that side. And they'll ask the coach, can you nominate who are the boys, because the coaches see them day in and day out, who are the boys that you think would benefit and are up to development. This is how a lot of it works. And then the coaches themselves, they will give them a list of names. And sometimes if it's a weaker side, maybe they'll say, oh, look, have you got 1 or 2 boys? And say, actually, I've got three boys who'll do really, really well. This boy, and this boy. Because obviously that coach is with the team all the time. He generally knows who the strongest players are in the team. They do have selectors that are out and having a look. And so they'll confer. Maybe the list is too big and they've got to narrow it down a bit. But that's generally speaking how they come up with that list of development players. Now, there's both positive and negative benefits to this. Nepotism is definitely a thing in rugby league. The coach will submit his 5 players that he thinks are good enough for development. And the first 4 are the best player, the second, the third, and the 4th best player. And then the 5th one that he submits is probably about the 8th best player. but it happens to be his son. So he submits that name, and sometimes the rep coaches will look at that and they're like, yeah, you know what? But he's a good coach. This is unfortunate. This does happen. He's a good coach, and if we can get him as a trainer, as someone else to help with the rep teams, it'll be really good to have another good mind around. So we will put his son in the side. Anyone who tells you that that doesn't happen is full of it. It does happen. Just deal with it. It is what it is. So just become undeniable. Become that good that you're one of those first 4 kids that get picked. This was out. It's not to sit there and bitch and whinge, because you know what? Life's not fair. We just had this in, we were talking before about your feelings. The facts, do not care about your feelings. Just get on with the job. Okay, so what I would say is just play that good, that you're undeniable, that you have to get picked, and that someone else can be the one who's on the fringe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in answer to the question, yes, you can still get chosen for development if you're in a bad club. Question number 3. I'm a skinny 19-year-old who's never played rugby league before. How do I go from 0 to hero? Chris, you can take that one on.
Left it a little late, not gonna lie. Things to look at straight off the bat. Are you athletic? Is there any potential there? If not, then there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and it just depends on if you're willing to put that time and effort into that. But if you have some natural talent, physical talent as well, then you just need to make sure you're hitting the gym, getting your skills up to scratch, and then start playing footy like ASAP.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it depends. You've said here, I want to go from 0 to hero. If this just means that you love footy and you want to go out and you want to play footy, then that's fine. You know, your goal isn't to go and play in the NRL. And we didn't, when we started the academy, it wasn't particularly about here, this is how you get into the NRL. It was about here is how you become the best rugby league player that you can possibly be, regardless of whatever level that is. You know, we've got someone in the program who's working really hard. I'm not going to mention names right now, but he's literally that old, and he's trained with us, and he's actually about to play his first season of rugby league. He played a trial game about 3 weeks ago, and he was grinning from ear to ear. And I was so pumped for the kid because he's wanted to play rugby league his whole life. Parents didn't let him play rugby league. Now that he's 18, he's made his own decision and he wants to go. And he absolutely, and has definitely been a massive learning curve for him, but he absolutely loved it. And so the same approach that he's taken, like what Chris said, is develop skills, get fit and get strong, and go and find a Div 2 or a Div 3 under 20s or an A grade if you're a 19-year-old. Go and find an under 20s, it's Div 2 or Div 3. Go and find a spot on the wing or as a replacement, as a second rower or something like that, and just go out and play footy.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. But like we said, you need to get stronger, you need to get fit, so you can think when you're on the field, and then just hammer and work on your skills. Education dump time. So we have now looked at David Goggins, Tim Grover, Tony Robbins. Last episode we looked at E.T. Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher. Any of those things, you search him, you'll find him. So you guys really should start having a nice big fat YouTube list of guys that you can listen to start filling your head with the right stuff. Today we're talking about Tom Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu is an American entrepreneur who, what year was it? He co-founded, I should say, Quest Nutrition. So you know the Quest bars?
Yeah.
Yep. In 2010. And by 2014, I think it was 2014, it was the second fastest growing company in all of the US. I remember tasting those bars for the first time. I thought it was probably about 2012 over at when we were at Fitness Fest.
Yeah. Used to have him in the that fitness show.
Yeah. And then sold the company for $1 billion in 2019. So very successful individual. He then in 2016 started a company with his wife called Impact Theory. So the YouTube channel you want to go to is Impact Theory. And on there they do long form interviews. So, you know, some of these other people that we've mentioned have been on there, and that's when they have, you know, like hour and a half, 2 hour interviews where they sit there and they talk. You know, you get life story stuff, you get a whole lot of useful tidbits. As you come away from those things feeling inspired, motivated, like you want to go and do something. It's the kind of fuel we need to fuel the brain so we get into that right frame of mind to accomplish things. He does a lot of shorter motivational clips, and there's probably some of his stuff, if you go down the YouTube, the rabbit hole, You know, when you click on one motivational, and then before you know it, this, you know, it's listed 15 different ones that you listen to. You would have heard some of his stuff before. He also does instructional videos on goal setting, overcoming and changing belief systems and things like that. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah. Look, see, the main reason why we do these educational dumps is so you can understand that we are capable of doing many more things than what you think you are. The people that you surround yourself around, the information that you gather is sort of your limitations. So broaden your knowledge, have a look at all these different people that we've mentioned, and then that will make you realize that you're capable of doing much more.
Yep, you are the sum of, well, we say the 5 people you spend the most time with, but you are who you hang around. And you know what, if you don't have anyone who's super successful with the internet, with your phone, with YouTube, it's really easy to hang around these people, which is why we're saying, if you're on the bus or the train to school in the morning or to work, and you might have an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours a day that you're traveling, get off TikTok and start listening and watching this sort of stuff. Trust me, it does not take long until you start to think about things differently. You start to look at life differently in general. Yeah. That's why we're doing this, and we'll keep giving you as many of these resources as we can. I think that's it for this episode.
Yep.
Give us a like. Come subscribe on YouTube. Please, we need to do that. Like the video, that helps us get this out to more people. What's that, Spiz? Send your questions in. Yes, we need lots of questions. Although we've got a good amount here that we can keep going through, but please send in your questions. Please be very specific about the questions. So, you know, if you've got a performance thing about something to do with programming, give us your age, height, weight, let us know how long you've been training, give us as much detail as you can. You know, you can even send in video questions, that would be cool. Show us yourself squatting, and then we can give you some tips on it. We'll literally say, oh, look at that, yeah, your hips are probably tight, this is an issue, that's an issue. Or give it up and stop training. No, we won't say that. Okay, so please send them all in. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.